Good morning and welcome to Rising. Happy New Year's Eve. It's actually my favorite day of the year, Niall, which is why I decided to dress up a little bit.
I
dusted off my tux. It actually wasn't dusty because I was at a very fancy wedding last weekend.
Oh,
but,
very nice.
Here we are.
You can just go straight from the Rising Studio to your New Year's Eve celebration.
Indeed, I intend to. You've got some plans?
I have very few plans, but I do enjoy the holiday. I'm a big fan of New Year's Eve, more so than Christmas, actually.
Excellent. Actually, yeah, me too as well. I will be out attending several parties that I'm very excited to get to. But first, we have a show to discuss.
We do. And what is on your radar, Robbie?
Well, 2024 is ending, and the independent fact-checking news site PolitiFact has continued a tradition that is near and dear to my heart in terms of mocking them. That tradition is Lie of the Year. PolitiFact is part of the Poynter Institute, one of those ostensibly independent organizations that, for some reason, far more inclined to find fault with the conservatives, the right more broadly, and Trump in particular. Indeed, PolitiFact has christened a Lie of the Year every year since 2009. And in just 2 of those years did statements by Democrats earn the odious distinction. In 2011, PolitiFact slammed Democrats for claiming that Republicans would vote to end Medicare, and in 2013, the organization finally concluded that President Obama's solemn promise, if you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan, was in fact untrue. But in every other year, PolitiFact singled out right-leaning purveyors of mistruths. And this year is no different. 2024, PolitiFact's Lie of the Year is the claim by Donald Trump that Haitian migrants in an Ohio town were eating people's pets. PolitiFact writes that, with a brazen disregard for facts, Donald Trump and his running mate repeatedly peddled a created story that in Springfield, Ohio, Haitian immigrants were eating pet dogs and cats. Now, we discussed this news cycle vigorously on Rising, and I've made it clear that I agree. The specific claim that Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio, were eating people's pet dogs and cats was untrue, full stop. What happened was that various concerns about migrants hunting birds in parks and an unrelated story of a pet cat getting killed in a different town by someone who was not an immigrant were incautiously combined on social media. In spreading this idea, the Republican ticket did in fact err. Calling them out for it, absolutely fair. But I'm sorry, that is not the lie of the year. The lie of the year is the fiction peddled by President Biden's aides and advisors and sold by White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre to a gullible and incurious mainstream media that President Joe Biden remained cognitively fit for office. Let's look back at KJP thunderously attacking conservative media, Fox News in particular, for daring to question whether Biden's confused behavior was evincing age-related mental collapse.
And I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right-wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation, and so we see this, and this is something coming from your part of the world, calling them cheap fakes and misinformation.
And there are many cases of this. Don't believe your lying eyes. That is what Biden's administrators, surrogates, and spokespeople said to the media. And for the most part, the media believed them. A recent report by the Wall Street Journal, which unlike much of the rest of the media did impressive work uncovering the lie, makes clear that Biden's aides were concerned about his age-related decline, not just in the final weeks of the 2024 campaign, but as far back as 2020. The Journal describes Biden being kept away from his cabinet and shielded from the American public because he had both good days and bad, even at the beginning of his presidency. Aides made sure he didn't have to take meetings in the mornings because they noticed he was more confused after just waking up. They also noticed he would lose focus if meetings went on for too long, so they instructed officials to keep things short. This had real-world consequences. Democratic Representative Adam Smith had concerns about Biden's planned withdrawal from Afghanistan, according to the Wall Street Journal. This is what he told them. But he couldn't get on the phone with President Biden. The president was unavailable. It was a bad day rather than a good day. We all know how that Afghanistan withdrawal went down. Now, many in the mainstream media are finally admitting that they got rolled big time by Biden's handlers. Let's watch.
One of the things we also do in the year-end correspondence roundtable is dig into what was undercovered or underreported. Jan?
Undercovered, underreported. That would be, to me, Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline that became undeniable in the televised debate.
At the presidential debate with Donald Trump.
Unquestioned. And, you know, it's starting to emerge now that his advisors kind of managed his limitations. It's been reported in the Wall Street Journal for 4 years. And yet he insisted that he could still run for president. We should have much more forcefully questioned whether he was fit for office for another 4 years, which could have led to a primary.
Underreported indeed. But it was their job to report it, to dig deeper, to be critical and suspicious of what the administration was telling them. This was the greatest cover-up of a president's limitations since everybody agreed to keep FDR's use of a wheelchair largely secret from the American public. I actually remember when I was younger and I first learned that in history class, that the media colluded with the government to keep FDR's incapacity a secret. I scarcely believed that such a thing was possible. I know better now. Never underestimate the legacy media's inability to get to the bottom of a story that would damage their preferred political candidate, in this case, Joe Biden. For my money, the fiction that Biden was capable of running for re-election and serving as president for 4 more years is, without question, the year of the lie. No questions asked, literally.
Well, a lot of stuff there, Robbie. I don't really dispute the idea that Biden's cognitive state obviously was undercovered. I would pay tribute, actually, to the Wall Street Journal, not just in that most recent report, but they were actually among the most aggressive pursuers of that story. And when reports initially emerged about that, they got a lot of pushback from the White House. Now, just briefly, I want to give you your due for acknowledging the lie pertaining to Springfield, Ohio, which was a lie, resulted in bomb threats, although there's some suggestion many of them were from overseas, public buildings closed, and all sorts of noxious theories going around which had been propagated by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, and that was a major issue. As far as Biden is concerned, look, I think that debate obviously exposed how bad things were. I don't think previous public appearances had exposed that to the same degree. And I do think that, yes, the story should have got more coverage. I also think, though, cognitive decline is something that accelerates. And so earlier in his presidency, yes, we are now finding out these details. I remember times in his presidency when people thought, oh, is X, Y, or Z appearance going to be a disaster? And it actually wasn't. I mean, there was his 2023 State of the Union, for example, was very sharp, and he sort of lured Republicans into this trap about Social Security and all of that. Seemed to display sharper faculties than many people had thought. But I think latterly that he was badly exposed, particularly in the debate, and it was very shocking.
We always have to remember, there was a yesterday, was it Semaphore or Axis? Semaphore had a list of some media commentators and what their big thing they got wrong in 2024 was, and several of them, including people I esteem for the most part, said that obviously the thing they got the most wrong was not seeing how badly off Biden was, or not believing that he was so badly off until the debate. And I think that's all fine and good, and you make some valid points there. But we do have to always remember the American people, they had picked up on something, because in polls going back well before the debate, going back a year ago, majorities of Americans, majorities of Democrats said they had serious concerns that he was too old to run. So it was kind of another example of the elites in the coalition not really hearing what the people with their own voters were expressing was potentially a problem.
No, it was. I mean, I remember seeing Biden at an event here in Washington in 2019. He spoke at an Al Sharpton event, and I went along as a reporter. And then I hadn't really seen him since the end of the Obama presidency, and I was struck by how old he seemed in his physical movement. And there is that thing with older people where they seem to lose peripheral vision or something. They don't seem to be aware of what's happening there. But that is different. I mean, that isn't enough for me to say, well, that man's obviously incapacitated from being president. He could just be a very old man at that point. It took longer for those things to manifest themselves. Just briefly, I would just defend what Karine Jean-Pierre said, because there were misleading videos or misleadingly edited videos that were pushed by opponents of Biden that I think was what she was talking about in the clip that we played.
I mean, I think there were 3 videos. One of them, misleadingly edited. One of them, it looked like he was wandering off camera and he was pulled back, and his attention had been drawn to something that was off camera. That one, I think you could say maybe that one edited is not that because it wasn't like spliced. It was just cut too quickly. But that was a part of a package of like 3 videos, one of them including his exit from the stage at the George Clooney event, the Obama event. That one was not misleadingly. I mean, that's the one that caused everyone there to conclude, holy crap, he can't be president anymore. So
yeah, no,
we can always add greater clarity to video, and I like anyone else, never want to fall for just seeing 30 seconds of something online. But we were seeing something.
I suppose, yes, and so it emerged.
All right. Speaking of praise for the Wall Street Journal, they have done a tremendous job this year on a number of subjects, including COVID origins. We've got an interview with a Wall Street Journal reporter on what he's learned about the efforts by intelligence agencies to investigate if COVID really did come from a lab. More Rising right after this.